You know, I knew Kirsten for a number of years in TIPS. She was very active. And this award is designed to personify the attributes so ably demonstrated by the four former recipients of the award: of balancing career and family. And it's tragic, really. In the events of Boston, you can't help but think back to 9/11 and the circumstances. And Dick already did the hard part of reminding us of how Kirsten died. But this is not an award about how Kirsten died. This is an award about how Kirsten lived. Kirsten was fully dedicated to TIPS. It was kind of a family tradition. Her dad, Bert, had been very active in the committee structure in one of the general committees and with TIPS. And when I started and became active in TIPS, we kind of bonded together. She was a broker at Willis. I was an employee of an insurance company, and we kind of came together. We had a general committee that we served on together. So I learned all I knew about the committee structure from Kirsten. I was smart enough when I was chosen as the chair to make her my co-chair. So Kirsten would ever so gently instruct me to come to her office in Lower Manhattan, and we would go through that which is necessary to make a general committee work. So you young people in the back who may not know what a Form A is, I learned what a Form A is from Kirsten Christophe. And I would sit in her office and I'd say, well, we don't have a membership vice chair. She says, every line of this form must be filled out. We will sit here until we figure out who we can put in that position. So I noticed that Kirsten was very dedicated in that way. And so I started to go to TIPS events with Kirsten. So we go into an event like this, and I'd be sitting next to Kirsten, or we'd be talking to each other, and she'd just like disappear for like a half an hour at the time. I was, where has she gone? And inevitably, where Kirsten had gone was to identify someone who didn't seem to be connecting, may have been sitting by themselves, someone who was first at a TIPS event, and she would befriend them and talk to them, and then come back and report it. Oh, did you know that's John Walter? He works at the blah, blah firm in St. Louis, and I got him hooked up with this person. He's going to be in that general committee, because she had a passion about what she did. Her daughter Gretchen was born a year and 2 days before 9/11. And so in the fall meeting of that year, which was in Lake George, thank you very much, I knew it. Lake George, we weren't expecting to see Kirsten. Her daughter had just been born. But sure enough, there she was with the baby cradle and the husband in tow, managing her career, her profession, and her family all at once. That was the kind of person that she was. Now Gretchen, I spoke to Charles, her husband, just the other day, and Gretchen is doing fine. Charles says that Gretchen is a tough cookie, go figure. But she's doing well. She's in 7th grade. She's excelling not only in school, where she's a grade A student, but in a lot of other social events. So there's good news, and that's the proof. That's the proof of someone like this. So, Janet, here we go. I first met Janet in about 1995. Having gotten involved with Kirsten with the Professionals, Officers, and Director Liability Committee, we were challenged by diversity. We really were. We were looking to diversify the committee. So I go through my TIPS directory and find out that Janet Davis is the chair of what we call the WAMI, the Women and Minority Involvement. So I said, I figured this is an expert witness. Let me go find out the lowdown on how to diversify this committee. And a friendship was forged from that meeting forward, which I'm proud to say lasts through today. But I noticed in the way that she approached events. I mean, Janet got up in the middle of lunch and she's working the crowd. You know, it's typical. She gave the award for best hair to this table in front. I was a little offended by that. I thought my hair was pretty good today. But we lost out the best hair award. But it's typical, reaching out to involving people. So in addition to my personal testimony, I will tell you that the only time that Janet will absent herself from a TIPS meeting is generally where she has to get back to the hotel to call in to her family. and Chance is her heart. She will admit that. Chance is her heart, and Chance, who's about as old at this point as Gretchen is her heart. And she balances those commitments. So it's interesting because I first met Chance at a TIPS meeting. Janet had brought him to a TIPS meeting, and Janice, my wife Janice, was reminding me of the time when she first met Chance and Dave at the Hotel Coronado in San Diego. So Janet Davis has always balanced the needs of career, profession, and family in that general balance. But Janet, if I don't have you convinced yet, as a good lawyer, I'll always rely upon the admission. And I have it in writing, and the admission is a form that Janet Davis filled out when she first ran for council. Now, I have not regaled you with all of the positions that Janet Davis has had at TIPS, from incoming chair of fellows to chair of WWAMI, corporate governance activities, and many of you won't know that even if you've been active in TIPS, because she is a quiet person. She doesn't seek aggrandizement for herself. She does what is best for the section and all of her. And Jack can certainly testify to her recent activities in the American Bar Association, and has taken on great responsibility there. And the thread that runs through all of those assignments is, although she is serving the larger American Bar Association, always is looking out for the interests of TIPS as well, because those are complementary. So in this application, she refers to the fact that she hadn't run for council previously because of family and work commitments. I have that in writing, family and work commitments. So the balance of family, work, and TIPS has always been in the mix. She also curiously refers to herself in the application as an old mother of a small child. Now, half of that is right. Chance was small. I wouldn't describe Janet even today as old, but family balance has always been in the mix. In summary, I think it is critically important for TIPS. I think it is critically important for TIPS to keep the memory and the legacy of Kirsten Christophe alive. And by this award today, we do so. Janet, I served with Kirsten Christophe. I knew Kristen Christophe. She was a friend of mine. Janet Davis, you richly deserve the Kirsten Christophe Award.
Well, obviously that's a hard act to follow. The good news is I knew that I would have to control my emotion and that he would have enough for both of us. So hopefully I'm good on that. All right, so where are my Leadership Academy people? Okay, you're too far away from me for me to catch your eye and for you to give me those affirming things that we just learned about. Talk about daunting. Right before we came in here, we were at the Leadership Academy where they were given an hour-and-a-half presentation on presence and speaking. So now all of our Leadership Academy people are in the back of the room grading me on what I'm about to say. So just remember, I wrote this before the presentation. There was not time to fix it. The other thing that I'll say before I say what I plan to say is, all right, there's a picture here. I'm not sure why I had to have this right here, Marianne, but okay. But since we've already acknowledged that we have the best hair table in the middle of the room, I'm taking votes afterwards for that hair or this hair. First, I wanted to thank Dick Smergen for nominating me this award and for being so generous in allowing Kim to present it to me. I remember vividly, and when I say vividly, I cannot tell you how vividly, the first time this award was presented in 2005 at the Lyric Opera House in Chicago to Fran Samaya. and how difficult it was for Kim to even be there for that award. In fact, Jill Berkeley and I had to tell him, because, okay, we are the mothers of the section, at least among them, you must be there. You know, it's the first time. You have to be there. You have to be there for Kirsten. You have to be there for Fran. And he did, but I have to tell you, I think it was one of the hardest things he ever did in his life. And I know this was hard too, so thank you for that. It's very special and totally appropriate that someone to whom Kirsten is still so special and who is so special to me is the one who presented the award on behalf of the section, so I appreciate that. I want to thank my friends who made a particular effort to be here at this event. I'm sorry that my family can't be. Yes, my heart, Mr. Chance is not allowed to miss schools in the 7th grade in public school in Chicago because it will have an impact on where he goes to high school, so he's not here. But I'm grateful to the many members of my TIPS family who are here with me. I want to mention first the 2 people who gave me opportunities in TIPS at the very beginning. Diane Daly, who so unfortunately is no longer with us, gave me my first speaking opportunity 20 years ago this year. And Jill Berkeley, my friend over here, who appointed me to my first TIPS standing committee a couple of months later. It was in that committee that I met several people seated over there who are in line now to become chair of the section. And so, you know, those 20 years, we still are all together. I also want to recognize my friends from my true home in TIPS, the Insurance Coverage Litigation Committee. I'm so proud of what we built together, and especially the work we do, thanks again to Jill with the International Risk Management Institute, which is the source of the TIPS Scholarship Fund. It's a huge thing, provides opportunity for people who would not otherwise be able to afford to attend TIPS events, and it's just really special to us. It takes a unique group of people to hold the attention and active participation of so many past chairs, a number of whom are here today, past chairs from the Insurance Coverage Litigation Committee. The number of past chairs we have at every meeting is a testament to the skilled, diverse, and extremely friendly group of people who continue to happily exchange knowledge and ideas in a manner that only we coverage geeks can truly appreciate. I mean, one of the freaky things about our annual meeting is the toolbox lunches where the people happily speak at a table for the whole lunch. And now we've had to have breakfast too so they can do it again about insurance coverage topics. So I thank you to all of you who have been here and have been such a great part of my life in TIPS. And I certainly can't forget my royal TIPS family, formed during my time as an officer of the section, the King of Tennessee, the Queen of Alabama, and the Petit Prince of Philadelphia, who is unfortunately in London today where the real royals resides, and we miss him greatly. You are living proof that laughter is the best medicine, and I love you, and make sure you tell Leo that I mentioned him. Thanks to you and all the people in TIPS and TIPS leadership who've made my active years in this section what organizational involvement should be. Worthwhile and enjoyable at the same time. When it stops being that, we need to quit. Since TIPS for so many of us is a source of lifelong friends, I could easily address today the importance and value of friendship, but in honor of TIPS' 80th anniversary and this Leadership in Action event, I want to speak with you briefly about the importance of leadership and why TIPS needs to focus on quality leadership to remain relevant for the next 80 years. First, I appreciate and applaud the leadership that has us meeting jointly with the Judicial Division, since their work is so crucial to the foundation of our system of justice, our society, our lives, and yes, our livelihood. I also salute the many TIPS liaisons that we've had from the Judicial Division and their contribution to TIPS over the years, and want to recognize in particular our liaison while I served as a TIPS officer, Judge William Missouri, seated here in front, who, in addition to being a wonderful leader, is a fine and true gentleman. He always took the time to read the minutes from the council meetings, which I greatly appreciated, and then tell me that he appreciated them. I don't think I ever told you, Judge, that until now, that my good friend and TIPS traveling companion, Carol Smith, seated over here, was actually the faithful and reliable editor of the minutes, which made them even remotely readable. Since this award is supposed to recognize expertise in trial practice or insurance law while personifying the attributes of balancing career, profession, and family, and life and practice, maybe it should not come as a surprise that all the recipients who I honor of the award in the past are women. I do hope that a TIPS man with expertise and balance will appear in the near future to receive the award. In any event, I hope you'll forgive me to the extent that my brief remarks on leadership sound like they're coming from your mother, but it does seem to appear to be in keeping with the spirit of the award, so here we go. A line from one of my favorite movies seems appropriate here, The American President, which is one of those things that if it's on, I just watch it wherever it is. But in Washington, D.C., it seems particularly appropriate. In the movie, Michael Douglas, as the president, says, the one thing he learned in his first term as president is that leadership is entirely about character. I absolutely agree with that sentiment, but want to explore with you what true leadership is and should be, because although there are many different styles of leadership, there are a number of values that are the core of great leadership. What leadership is not, and should be. Leadership is positive, not negative. It builds others up. It does not tear them down. It is inclusive, not exclusive. It is welcoming, not cliquish. It is forthright, but does not belittle. It knows how to listen and learn as well as speak and teach. It works to leave something better, does not burn or consume everything in its path. Thinks big, but not small. Thinks outside the box, but yet does not let itself get boxed in. Is strong, but kind. Is not selfish, but neither is it selfish. It is proud, but not boastful. It is humble, but not meek. It looks to the future and the new while still honoring, respecting, and learning from the past. And as Marianne and I were discussing the other day when we were talking about this event, for the Girl Scouts out there, this means leadership knows how to make new friends but keep the old. One is silver and the other is gold. Leadership also knows that life's a dance. Sometimes you lead, sometimes you follow. And yes, I really do like country music. There's a lot of great lines in country music, and that's one of my current favorites. If leadership is entirely about character, then the foundations of that character for our profession must be integrity, honesty, ethics, and compassion. That doesn't mean there's only one style of leadership. We each have to determine, okay, now I'm looking at you guys in the back of the room, we each have to determine what style works for us and fits our personality and skill set. Although Sheryl Sandberg and I are from completely different generations, and luckily I did not suffer with the same doubts and fears that she seemed to when she was growing up, I agree with her that as a woman you have to lean in to find success and be a leader. And that leadership for women may encompass some different skills or at least different presentation methods than for men. I hope that someday that will change, but unfortunately it's still true. But we don't have time to explore that issue here today. You can read her book. But in reflecting on what qualities have served me best in leadership, it was easy to identify being a really good listener, being honest and direct even when it's difficult. Gary Gassman sitting there knows that I have that quality since he's in the office next to me every day. Concern for and about others, and exercising sound judgment in actions taken and advice given. It also helps to have a confident and authoritative delivery, even when it may not be totally warranted. And being right much of the time absolutely never hurts. But seriously, I've tried to take full advantage of the opportunities that have come to me and refuse to acknowledge and accept barriers that, like those that were presented for me as a female construction litigator in the early 1980s. And I have to say, unfortunately, some of those things still linger today. It's been an important part of my leadership in one of my chosen areas of practice to ignore those barriers and try to break them down. So I suggest to you that real leadership, good leadership, true TIPS leadership embodies the values I've just mentioned. If we want TIPS to continue for another 80 years, we must recommit to these core leadership values, which have made TIPS the relevant and welcoming organization in which so many of us have gladly invested so much time, toil, energy, and emotion. And we must find, nurture, and inspire the next generation of leaders in our homes, in TIPS, and in the profession. Thank you again for recognizing me this award.
Wow. As you can tell, Janet Davis, is a gem. And Janet, thanks for those wonderful words. It just made this meeting even more meaningful for all of us, especially me. Thank you so much.